I know I'm not going to want to be in this career for the rest of my life. If I know that, what's the first step that I'm going to make, and kind of have that journey begin from a more positive mindset.
Hello and welcome to Get a Shift On. This week I am really pleased to welcome Louise McGuill, who actually I met on LinkedIn through a mutual friend, and we've had some really good discussions about the work that Louise does. Louise is actually currently still a teacher, and she's just told me she is doing her last 2 days of teaching this week, which is super exciting for you, if not a little nerve-wracking, I'm sure. Welcome along to the podcast.
Thank you. So pleased to be here. Yeah, it's quite a unique time for me, really, with having my two, like you said, last 2 teaching days, a few days away.
Amazing. We'll come back to that, I'm sure, because I know people will be really interested to know how you've got to where you are. So just give us a brief story. What do we need to know about where you've been to understand where you are today?
Yeah, so my background is in teaching and education, and worked my way up to senior assistant head of quite a large junior school. And I went off and had my first baby after, I think I must have been teaching in education about 14 years then. And so, yeah, went off, had my baby, went to come back, and they refused flexible working for me because I was at the senior level at that point. And the school that I was in, wouldn't allow flexible working, wouldn't allow me to reduce the number of hours. But I was told that I could come back, leave all of my leadership responsibilities, and just, inverted commas, go back as a teacher. Which really, really got to me at the time, to be honest, because I'd worked really hard to get to where I wanted to be in my profession. And then just because I had a baby, it seemed that I could no longer, they didn't want me any longer to do that position. So that was the first kind of inkling that I had, that perhaps I needed to begin to look elsewhere for the type of recognition and feedback and energy that I wanted within a workplace. So then I left that school, needless to say, and went to another school. And I didn't end up going back into leadership, because once I had my 12-month-old baby, I realized that I didn't want to dedicate the whole of my life to teaching, and I really wanted to dedicate my time to my little one. So then that really got me thinking about what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and if there were even any other options out there for someone who'd been so kind of indoctrinated in the education system, if you like. Flash forward a couple of years and COVID in between, and I went off and had another baby, and then went back to teaching 2 days a week. So since I had my babies, it was 2 days a week. Before that, it was definitely full time. And then, it was on my second maternity leave, really, that I started to really consider an exit move. So I knew it wasn't going to be something that would happen overnight. So I needed to start looking outside of that bubble that I mentioned, and starting to unpick and realize what skills I had, where they could translate, and where I wanted to translate it into. Because I think that's the hardest thing, whatever career you've been in, whether it's education or something else, you've been in it for quite some time, and it's all you know to a degree. So that was really quite challenging. I did have space and time, because I was on maternity leave, to allow my brain to think outside of the box and to get talking to people. I think if I hadn't had that space, it would have taken even longer, really, to realize where my skills could go. Yeah, and then this thing called copywriting jumped into my world through an algorithm, I imagine, on Facebook somewhere, and then into my inbox, and I started to explore it. And we fast forward to today, where I am an email copywriter and building my own business, and lots of little bits in between, which we can get into in a bit. But that's a brief, not so brief overview of where I am today.
Oh, that's fantastic, and really just so exciting to hear. And I find it really interesting that it was when you had your children that was that catalyst to make change, because I think that's really common for so many people, myself included. I think that's when my life really and understandably took such a change in direction. It took me a long time to get there. And I think it's really sad as well to hear that your school, the system, wouldn't support you in keeping your high level, which I'm sure they are desperate for, when you returned just because you'd had a baby, as you say. I think that's really sad to hear.
It is, and it's surprisingly common. Yeah, it is really surprisingly common, particularly in leadership within education. It is deemed that that can't be done part-time, but that's quite a closed mindset around it. But there's lots of things that are quite old school, inverted commas, in different institutions, and education is just
Yeah,
one of
of
them.
course.
But
Yeah,
yeah, in
of
fact,
course.
in the long run, it was very lucky, and everything kind of happens for a reason, that kind of thing. But yeah, at the time, it was a really challenging time, really challenging.
Yeah, and I guess probably made you feel pretty bad as well to be treated in that way. And people often will say or worry about leaving a profession, education, or healthcare. But actually, when you're treated that way, there's no incentive to want to stay. And I think that's the bit that people miss. And that's the really hard bit that the leadership, management, society as a whole need to understand, is that when you are made to feel that way, you don't want to stay doing what you're doing. And it's
Yeah,
not fair when
exactly.
you've spent so long in it.
Yeah, exactly. And because you're in public services, you do dedicate everything to it. You work your way up to a certain point in certain level, and it is everything that you do. And that is, you've put your life to it for X amount of years. And, you know, things happen, positions change, etc. However, to be closed around time frame being an issue, yeah, it was quite a catalyst really for me, because before that, that's all I'd known. And then, like you say, having children changes your perspective completely anyway. Prior to having my children, I would get into work at between 6 a.m. and 6:30. I'd leave 6:30 on an evening, and then work on the weekends as well. Teaching responsibility as well as leadership responsibility, that wasn't something that I wanted to buy into once I had my little ones. There's no way you could do that and sustain healthy relationships either side. So yeah, that was the initial kickstart. And I think then COVID, having time to reflect and having lots of time to think. And then, like I say, on my second maternity leave, having two is a whole different ball game to having one. So wild.
Yeah.
That's another consideration as well. And yeah, it gave me the headspace and time to look around and tiptoe out of the bubble, if you like.
Yeah. And that's what people need sometimes, is that tiptoeing, as you say, to move out, to find something different. When you were talking about in the kind of introduction, you talked about finding skills and what it was that you were good at that you might be able to use in the outside world, having been indoctrinated. How did you find those skills? Did you use particular avenues or research to find what you were actually good at, which I'm sure was plentiful, but I think it's easy to forget when you are in that indoctrinated bubble.
Yeah, it was really challenging, quite honestly, at first, because your brain instantly goes to what you can physically do or what you've been physically doing. Lots and lots of lists, lots of brain dump, lots and lots of lists upon lists of. It starts at the top level. I found that I kept writing, well, I can plan lessons, or I can lead people, or da da da. But then it's like going underneath those layers. But what does it take to be able to do that? And then the next layer again, what does it take to be able to create that space and time for people? And then kind of you get the crux of what you are made of and what you can do. And equally, figuring out what I liked doing, like which one gave me the most energy, because if I'm going to take a leap and go into something different, then I don't want it to be something that's going to drain me. I want it to be something that's kind of on my terms, that I know is something that's energizing to me. So yeah, lots and lots of lists like that. But I found that was just one element. But then you don't know what you don't know. So literally like 18, well, it would have been at that point, 16 years in one profession. I didn't have a clue what was out there. Like I genuinely had no idea. So lots of looking around LinkedIn job boards, looking around, Googling, researching, talking to people. And yeah, it massively opened my eyes as to what people get paid for, quite frankly. I was like, that's a job? Oh my God. Right, okay. Yeah, there were lots of those moments.
I think it's quite exciting though when you realize that there is so much out there that you can do. And when you start to realize that you have all these skills, something I talk about a lot is the fact that you forget the skills you have. Because you said you're lesson planning and you think, right, oh, what can I do? Lesson planning. But you forget all the skills that actually you have on a day-to-day basis. Lesson planning is many skills within one. When you were looking and you saw all these amazing jobs or ideas that people get paid for, did you ever think that you would be able to actually leave and do something? Or did you think you might have to retrain, start completely afresh, and worry that actually your skills that you did have were not suitable for moving on?
Yeah, absolutely. All of the above, to be honest, because like I say, you're so secure within what you've been doing. You kind of found that I was going from my utter comfort zone, like I could do it standing on my head kind of thing, to going into somewhere where I'm not going to be like that. You know, it's like leaving primary school for secondary school. You leave primary school and you're in year six and you think, yeah, I've got this, I know everything. And then you go to secondary school, you're thinking, oh my God, right, okay, I don't know anything. So it's like kind of getting over that bridge and that hurdle. A lot of the things when I was kind of seeing stuff, I thought, oh God, you know, I'm not going to be able to do that. I haven't got the relevant experience. And when I was looking at jobs as such, but what I didn't have really at that point in time was the mindset of being able to reframe that as to, okay, I haven't got that relevant experience in the way they're asking for it, but and now I can see how easy it would have been to reframe what they're asking for with my experience that I'd had in just storytelling in a different way, to the examples that they've got really. But then when I was thinking of my own business ideas, it's God, you just go through a roller coaster. You're like, yeah, I could definitely do this and I can do that, I could do that. Then the next day you think, what am I talking about? There's a million people that can do that as well. So there's a whole load of mindset work, I think, that comes around leaving a profession and going into something else, whether that's your own business or into another career choice. But yeah, I did retrain. I think there is a point where you do need to retrain. And if it's something totally different, like for myself, copywriting, so I made it priority that I upskilled in copywriting and upskilled in, like, how do I even own a business? You know, looking at those opportunities, there were a couple of different courses that I did, and then got myself into different communities where people were 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of myself to be able to learn from those who'd been there before. I think that's super important. Just keep talking to people and learn from what they've done, and what they've learned is the best way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So key to understand that we can't do everything ourselves, and you have to find others to seek that help, which just helps us grow. And especially when you're retraining. You must have had a really good grounding, though, for copywriting, I would imagine, as a teacher, multiple facets in primary, but language must be one of them. Can you just explain what you do as a copywriter?
Yeah, sure. So it's weird because that term copywriter kind of sat with me for quite some time. And that's the kind of the label, if you like. See, when you're a teacher, you end up describing your whole being as I am a teacher. So, and as that happens in a lot of professions, like I am a doctor, I am a nurse. And I really wanted to try and step away from that, but that was really challenging at first. So to help bridge myself over, I retrained in copywriting, if you like, and then took me a while to be able to feel confident to call myself a copywriter. But since then, I've it's just all merged and grown as I've gone through really. So yes, copywriting is a big element to what I do. So I support people with writing copy that they communicate via email and or LinkedIn, but the majority of the copy that I do is email copywriting, and helping other people communicate with the people that they can really help, that they can really support, and offer services or products to. Very much not in that kind of yucky email marketing sleazy kind of way. It's very much in, again, empathy led, relationship building, understanding of your audience, which is at the crux of copywriting, which is where the synergy came with the teaching, because every day at 5 or 6 lessons a day, I have an audience, if you like, of 30 children that I have to move and get a buy-in from, to move them from A to B with them feeling like they want to be involved and want to go on that journey. So that for me was that light bulb moment when I found copywriting, that actually, do you know what, I do this every day. I have to understand it from their point of view, see things from their eyes, get their buy-in, move them along the journey until they get the success that they need at the end. And ultimately that's what copywriting is, done in the written word, as well. Yeah, that's kind of the copywriting element. But as it's merged and as I've grown and over time, I just can't get away from the teaching element. I absolutely love teaching. I love training, and that energy and that rapport that comes with being in a room with people and actually seeing those light bulb moments and physically seeing and helping other people. I just love it.
And I think that's not surprising, given that you said you've done so long, 16 years plus in teaching, in education. The fact that you want to carry that on, I think, is absolutely normal. And I hear the same from people in healthcare as well, who ultimately went into a profession to help in some form or another. And when they move out of it, when they transition, they are ultimately doing something to help in whatever form that takes. So I'm not surprised that you have ended up down that route. And I'm sure you're very good at it. I can see the energy and the passion that you have when you talk about it. How have you gone about starting and building the business that you have?
Yeah, so what happened first? Let me try and remember. So yeah, I did the kind of bits on my own, if you like. So found the copywriting, did some training, did some more training, and then some more training online at that point because I was on maternity leave, and then I was heading back to work. So I went back to work 2 days a week, and then this was kind of on the weekends, in the evenings, on this kind of spare hours, if you like, during nap times, baby nap times. And I found a community was the first big step for me. I invested quite heavily in a coaching community that taught me a whole load of digital marketing skills for myself, building my business and my brand, looking at my own messaging, sales training. So it was a big investment up front of and a leap of faith to myself and trust, like, this is, if I'm going to give it a go, I'm going to give it a go. And that was the really big catalyst. And then I think it was like a government incentive or government program that I joined, which taught me, I think it was about a 12-week program where it helped teach me how to build a business, if you like, the accounts, all the different bits and pieces involved with a business. Because of course, being in teaching, I've never had to look at anything that comes with building a business, from registering to tax and all of those things. So there's the two elements, the marketing and building of my brand, and then the nuts and bolts of what on earth does it mean to build a business. So those two things had to come together really from the very beginning. That was the initial stages, and just figuring out who were my audience, what was I actually offering, because there was so many things I could potentially offer. And in fact, when I first started, my niche was, I looked particularly at copywriting and in sustainability and sustainable fashion and textiles. That was the area that really caught my eye initially. And then I moved away from that. So it was also learning that you're not necessarily going to have your absolute best profession, your next step, nailed in from the very minute you step out of one profession. It was definitely a molding together and a discovery, if you like, of where I wanted to be. It takes time, but it was quite exciting along that journey, just figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely. So important to realize that there's that fluidity to change. Just because you step out, you don't suddenly have to do the first thing that comes to mind. Do you still have a niche? Would you say that there's a niche or a micro niche that you work in now?
Now my niche is email copywriting. So whereas previously I did blogs and websites and email copy, etc., but within the sustainability sector, my niche now is more in the vehicle, so in the email marketing. But I work with all sorts of service providers or product, mostly service providers, but there are some products as well.
I think it's nice to have that niche because it does make it a bit easier. And I'd imagine from a copywriting point of view that it makes it much easier when you know who you're targeting, what you're looking at. something that I'm quite interested in, and I'm sure we can have a conversation at some point as well. That community that you started with, the leap of faith that you took to join that community, must have been really, really powerful for you. Do you think that that's anybody that's coming out of a career to find a community, whatever that looks like?
Yeah, I do actually, because it is a different world, and often the people in your immediate, family, friends circle and work colleague circle, they're just not on that wavelength. They just don't work in that way, unless your colleague and what have you is self-employed and in that niche, but mine weren't and still aren't. So it's just a totally different mindset. Like, my partner has his own business, but they're very much physical businesses. He goes out and, services and what have you. It's not an online world. So if you're doing a business which is an online business, definitely the communities. And now I'm not involved in that initial one that got me to a certain stage, but now I'm involved in 2 other communities which are ongoing support, mindset, collaboration, community. It is, I just wouldn't not be in those, if you know what I mean. They are help you constantly evolve, help you keep up with what's going on, but equally keep you sane. Your litmus test things, you have a roller coaster day as you do on business, and someone else is having a roller coaster day, celebrating each other's wins. They become your workforce. If when you're working on your own, you need a workforce. I'm a people person, so I like people around me and have that kind of back and forth. So certainly for me, that's been essential. And I then also discovered the in-person networking. And in fact, my youngest, who's now 3, she's been coming to network events with me since she was about 6 weeks old. So yeah, it was far easier when she was a few weeks old as opposed to age 3. But she came to me one
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. So in person as well as digital.
But that's a great education for her growing up, though. I'm sure she'll remember some of that
Yep.
and know that she went working with mum. I love that. I think that's really good. But yeah, I can imagine trying to control a 3-year-old running around is probably slightly different to, yeah.
I
I
always
think mine would
introduce
just
her as
slope
my
off.
CEO. She's the CEO and I'm the assistant.
Yeah, that's probably not far off the truth either, is it, for most of our children?
No,
They
especially
rule the
3-year-olds.
roost. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think it's so interesting about community because, especially if you are solo working, it's really hard to find people. And when you come from an education background or indeed healthcare, where you've got someone you can call on all the time to do everything else other than the bit that you do. So you've got maybe a marketing team to kind of help you produce stuff. You've got office assistants to help with the next bits. You've got other management that you can go to for specifics. Suddenly you have to do it all yourself. And that is so lonely. And interesting you touch on family and friends as well, because it's something I've talked about quite a lot. Because we want to ask our friends, our family, what they think of what we want to do, but they're not always the best people ask because they don't have that same mindset. You said your husband has his own business, so that's great. But were your other friends and family supportive of your decision to move? And what about your colleagues from within the teaching sphere as well?
Yeah, so they have been. I mean, I was quite choice in which colleagues I told about it really. It almost felt like this second life that I had for a little while, because at my current employment, a lot of them still don't know what I've been building on the side alongside teaching. I made very, very close friendships at my previous workplace. So my closest friends, absolutely from the very beginning, have known and cheerleaded me and, supported me along the way, as has my partner, which is brilliant. But it's just getting that balance, isn't it? I felt like I couldn't, it's weird space because I was still working and building something and really experimenting with building something. I felt like I couldn't tell the people that I was currently working with because, I don't know, in case you get found out, it's more than allowed. I'm allowed to do more than one job. But I just felt like, yeah, I don't know what the response would have been. So there's only really a couple of them now that I'm leaving know that I'm moving into it. And I think that's possibly a bit of a unspoken thing, really, of people leaving careers, that you do feel like you're doing this thing secretively in the background, that you're hunting around and exploring. Yeah, I hadn't necessarily really even thought about that until just now.
I find it really sad actually that that is the way it has to be, because you're right. There is no, why can't we do two things? Many people have something they're building, a side hustle, whatever you want to call it, that they're building. But there does seem to be almost that little bit of shame that you can say, oh, I don't really want to tell them just in case. And I think some of that's on us. I think some of that's possibly the fear of failure around what may happen if it all goes wrong. Because then if, oh, I'm building this amazing thing and then it doesn't work out, and then you kind of, oh, hang your head. Another is, I think, what people will think. And I love the fact that clearly some of your colleagues and your closest friends were supportive, as friends should be. But I do think a lot of people hang back a little bit from that and don't tell people because of the stigma that's attached to what may be and what people will say. I think that's changing. The conversations I've had with people, I think it's changing because I think people understand that careers are not for life. There's so much else going on, be it just because you're unhappy or financial pressures as well. Because actually, even in well-paid jobs such as teaching, a lot of people are still struggling and need a bit of a top up. So actually having an Etsy store or, you know, a bit of this on the side, I think is probably becoming more normal than certainly it was when I
Yeah.
started and probably when you started your career as well.
Yeah, I think you're right,
What advice
actually.
would you give to someone? All right. I was going to say, what advice would you give to someone who is contemplating telling friends or family about a shift or a change that they want to make?
Yeah, I think I would say do it. Number one, do it, and don't worry about what they're going to say, because often we create the response from them in our own minds first. Like we kind of make up what their response is going to be and we get quite worried about it before we even say it. And like you said and touched upon, you know, your friends are there because they love you, they're supportive of you, they love what you're doing, and really they are the people where you can get quite excited and creative around. I found it particularly helpful because a lot of my close friends are from within the teaching profession, and we've all kind of experienced the similar difficulties, and really all, I suppose we're all, once we started talking, we're wanting an exit plan. So we had that kind of similar vein to talk about and egg each other on, if you like, support each other. But yeah, I would say, yeah, explore it with them, because, you know, they if they're not in that same bubble as you, even better, because they have experience elsewhere of knowing what's in that outside world. And like I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know, so they could have insights and support in many different ways. So don't give an answer before you've asked it in your own mind.
And we are all guilty of that, for sure. Tell me and share with us a little bit about what you're doing now, the copywriting that you're doing. What are the, because you're offering courses, what is it that you're offering and how are you helping people now?
Yeah, sure. So it's super exciting time for me at the minute, actually, because I've revamped one of my core courses, my signature course, if you like. So I've got a 12-week email marketing visibility program, which helps, like it said in the title, get people really visible, get them a sustainable email marketing system that's going to work for them so that they're seen by their dream clients and can be consistent in their communication with them. So that's a 12-week program, and it actually starts, my next cohort is September the 15th, and that one I've really up leveled even more. So it's a hybrid. I'm very much, because again, my teaching background, I'm very much of the mindset that if we're left to do things on our own devices, we're far less likely to do them. You know, take homework as an example, send the thing home, it's likely it's not going to get done. So we need to have that support and ongoing support. And we touched upon community. That's really important to me as well. So within my program, it's hybrid. So you get online access to training program of videos, which I've compiled, which go breaking down things into really small steps. Again, the teaching comes in there, breaking things down into small steps and a really clear learning journey of email training, which takes people from discover, define, and do. So it's all about business foundations in the discover. The define element is all about defining how we're going to get eyes on you and people signing up. So it's looking at your lead magnet offering and what's best for your audience. And then looking at the do, I help teach people how to create a automated nurture sequence, which is going to sit and run in the background. So it's going to work really hard for you 24/7. And it's about getting the messaging and the value and the relationship building through words there. And then I take people further than that onto, okay, now how are we going to regularly communicate with your audience that have raised their hand, they're interested? How are we going to build that relationship through words even further? So that's the content planning element. And as part of that, so you access all that online training, but you get 3 90-minute one-to-one strategy sessions with me. So I can really help you dig deep and create your strategy and hold you to account for it as well, and be that kind of person that you need, giving you the cheer, but also giving the kick up, the what's it if you need it. And then we've got the DM support. So I'm accessible on DM, on message throughout the whole 12 weeks for those moments where you have the wobbles or you want me to take a look at something, and yeah, just be there for you really. And I've also built quite a community of my own. So I've got guest experts that come in. And I think we talked about this before, David, where other experts coming in to give their element that's going to help build your business further. Email marketing is one element of your marketing toolkit, if you like. So I've had guest experts like PR specialists, well-being experts to create the calm and the nervous system we need to continue. What else? We've got LinkedIn, social media support, all to add to that growth and visibility for people. So it's super exciting. I do get overexcited when I talk about it because I absolutely, as you can tell, I love supporting people. And I think this package is, well, I know it does because I've had previous clients. It's something that I'm super, super proud of, and it can really help people grow and be visible and help the people they want to help.
And I love your passion about it as well. And I'm very glad that you are, because I think if you were sitting here not looking quite so passionate, it just doesn't have that same feel. And I know we've talked before, I see your post on LinkedIn, and that passion is absolutely clear. And again, about having that community, bringing people in, bringing those experts in, is so crucial to being able to deliver an absolutely optimal program for people. You mentioned previous clients as well. Do you ask them for testimonials? Do you ask them to share their stories about their journeys with you and with your prospective customers?
Yeah, so this is something I've had to get much better at. I think a lot of us aren't very good at asking other people to shout about us. So I nag my clients to do it, but it's easier to tell someone else to do it than do it yourself. So I've got into more of a habit now of, so I'm really active on LinkedIn, posting every day for nearly 2 years now. So most recently, I have been asking people to, hey, if we've worked together or if you've been a client, can you pop me a recommendation on LinkedIn? So that kind of sits there. But then I do the clients that have been in my initial beta rounds of this program. Yeah, I spoke to them and have asked for their testimonials or little snippets or where they're at now. I keep something called a smile file, which might be quite useful to your audience. A, it's brilliant to look back at when you're having one of those days as a business owner or in your new profession, whatever it is you're doing. B, it's really great for your marketing. So whenever someone sends me a message, like today I ran a free masterclass on email building, and within the comments, 3 or 4 people at the end gave me, that was brilliant, took so much from that, thank you so much. I screenshot it, put it in my smile file, screenshot it, put it in my smile file. And those real life, real time comments actually are more impactful than something that's more formally written, I find, because that's in the moment. Those people have taken instant value from you. And then it's up to me within the copywriting head to then use those in my own marketing to say, here's what so and so felt, here's what they got from it, this could be you too, and using those to shout your own, shout your own and fly your own flag, which can be challenging to do at first. It doesn't come naturally as such, but it's so important. People do buy from people, and the testimonials of others are people. So that's it's key.
And sometimes you have to fly your own flag because others won't. So it is key to do that. I love the smile file. I think that's really good. I'm going to have to have one myself.
Yeah.
I really love that idea. You touched on having the bad days, hence you use your smile file. What else do you do to get over those days? Because being an entrepreneur, being a solopreneur, has that absolute highs and lows of amazing. I've got all the clients, my class is full, brilliant. I've had no responses to my email, no one's signing up, no one's on my class, my kids are screaming. How do you cope with those kind of really rough days?
Yeah, that's a really timely question because I've literally had both sides of the roller coaster just this week. So Sunday, I was high as a kite, like, this is brilliant. I've got only 2 days left of work. I'm going to do this, this, this. And then yesterday, it was like, rum. For whatever reason, it just was not my day yesterday. And yeah, so I have to look at my smile file. And to be fair, I go to my communities. So I went to my communities and we shared some stories and try and write down. And a lot of my work has been on mindset. So really trying to see it from, but what has been positive? What have I done in the last day, week, month, whatever it is? And I think I did a post on it actually. I was having one of those days the other day. So I did a LinkedIn post on it and just sat and wrote a reflection of the last 3 weeks. And it totally surprised me as to, no wonder I'm feeling bloody tired. I've got this, and this is what I've achieved. And then the family stuff, and then this. And it did really help me go, actually, because you're working on your own, you haven't got someone else or other teams around you saying, oh, you've done that. That's excellent. This is next. That one, that one. It's you. And what we as humans tend to do is remember the negative rather than the positive. It just happens. It's the fight or flight thing, isn't it? So we have to consciously plan in moments to reflect. And that's really, really helped me. So jotting down actually what has made me smile? What am I really proud of? What have I actually done and achieved this, like I say, period of time? And yeah, it totally flips the thinking then. And just the knowledge that actually it is going to happen. You are going to have days where you think, my God, what have I done? This is not working. And you are then going to have days where you're on top of the world and everything is brilliant. That is just how it is. Once you accept that, you know to ride it, I think.
Yeah, but accepting it, understanding it, and giving yourself permission to allow those days is absolutely key. And again, thank goodness for community where you can just say, oh, I'm feeling rubbish. Please tell me I'm not the only one out there doing it. And it is, we do forget so easily the wins. And as you Sunday, absolute high, Monday, absolute low, and very similar. And a few weeks ago, I had a Monday where I just dragged and dragged all day. I was so annoyed with myself. I don't know, I just a really, really bad day. And it took me to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon to suddenly just say, stop, walk away. Nothing is happening. Nothing positive has come out of today at all, really. Just walk away and start. And I did spend some time with the kids, pick them up from school. And actually, I think I started working about 7, 8 o'clock at night. And I just did a little bit, but it just flipped that thought process. And I thought, okay, if I'd given up at 9 o'clock this morning, it'd have been a much better day overall, and I probably would have been more productive. So I'm glad, and I hope today's a good day. When is your
Good.
last 2 days of teaching?
My last 2 days of teaching are on Thursday and Friday this week.
Amazing. Big party on Friday?
I'm going to Malaga on Saturday with my girly friends. It's my first abroad holiday since having my kids, and my eldest is 7. So I am beyond excited to lie on a sun lounger and do nothing.
That is absolutely brilliant. And I wish you the best time ever. You'll have such an amazing time. How long are you going for?
4 whole nights sleep and
Wow.
4 whole lie-ins. I know.
Did your husband get to go away on his own at some point?
He went to Glastonbury 6 nights. So yeah, I'm still owed 2.
Okay. Oh, you're still owed to. Yeah, absolutely. That's so, it's so exciting. And it's clear that you're so passionate about what you're doing. And I wish you all the very best moving forward in the future with it. And what comes in September with your new cohort, your new courses. What's next as well? Is there anything else on the horizon that's coming? What's exciting? What are you planning that you're happy to share with us?
Yeah, so my program is my baby, if you like. So I'd really love to fill out those programs as 3 cohorts across a year. But my real passion, I want to get into doing some in-person workshops, talks. I just love being in the room. So transferring those classroom and leadership skills into being in a room and having my own workshop or guest expert at other in-person events would be, that's my next kind of mission, if you like.
Super exciting. And I have no doubt that you will hit those missions and those targets that you've set yourself. Finally, what piece of advice, what's the best advice that you would give to anyone from any sector looking to leave a career? They might feel stuck and not quite sure how to make that leap. What advice would you give them?
Things really. I think the first one would be to create a longer term exit plan. So not to expect that it's going to happen straight away, but set in your mind, okay, I know I'm not going to want to be in this career for the rest of my life. If I know that, what's the first step that I'm going to make, and kind of have that journey begin from a more positive mindset? Because I think a lot of the time when people leave a career, it's got to the point of, I can't do this anymore, and it's kind of, right, I just got to leave now. Whereas if you can begin to tune in to tell and understand that that's something you're going to want to do, is leave that in the future, then start the wheels in motion, because it isn't something that can happen overnight. And start looking around and talking to people. I think that's the key. Just see what is out there. You don't know what you don't know. So have a look and figure it out.
Amazing. And I couldn't agree more with you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time and all you are doing. And I know we've spoken, and I certainly will be coming back to you for more advice and more at some point. And finally, have the most amazing holiday. Enjoy Malaga. Enjoy doing nothing. And here's to September and the new bright future that you'll have ahead of you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really, really enjoyed this. Thank you for asking me. I will. I'll have a cheers on my sun lounger.
I look forward to seeing at least one picture on LinkedIn of you enjoying your holiday. Louise,
Thank
you
you
so much. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.